G'day YouTube, warbles on a lot here. Up here on top of the ridge, as I am, in the forest, people sometimes wonder why it is that I have swamp wallabies hanging around as my closest and most regular visitors. Well, that would be, you see, because when it rains, this whole place reverts to being a Montane swamp. That there is a spring. There's another one underneath my deck. This is sort of like the doorstep rivulet. And part of the drill when it starts to rain, with any sort of seriousness, is to clean out the drain and try and intercept the water going under the hut and lead it off through this little trench That's a bit of a worry. Feet sinking in here. I bloody hope the roots of that tree aren't suffering the same as this is, but that's part of the fun of trap rock. When you get in a patch of anything resembling soil where there's not enough rocks in the matrix to keep it all solid, when it gets wet you can walk on it once. If you walk on it a second time, it gets softer. First time it's like fruit cake. You walk on it, it becomes like sponge cake. You walk on it again, it becomes like elephant snot. The only thing holding that together there is the organic material in the soil slowly breaking down. But yeah, if we get a really strong wind, it's quite possible this tree could decide to finally do away with me. You never know. Living in the Montane swamp, that's a great place for fungi, growing among the moss and the lichen atop the rock. The toadstools are just starting to come up in time to be jumped on by the redneck wallabies. But one of the quasi-spiritual experiences available is to walk barefoot on the forest floor after rain. And you can sort of almost more or less feel the life coming up through the floor of the forest. Isn't that right, Clippy? Hey, you've come in looking for a feed, haven't you? Well, wait a minute, I'm going to go and have a look and see what mushrooms I can find. There's a one, there's a two. And over here, there's very definitely three. Rather sulphurous looking one coming up. A little bit of a sunbeam glowing on the green. Hello Euro, how are you? Little puffball. I think, yeah, that's an actual edible mushroom. That's not, that's a toadstool. I'll leave that one there for its spores to spread around. And look here, 4.5 litres per millimetre going in there has finally filled the water tank. To the point where I've had to improvise a waterfall protector for the pad. Otherwise, the outhouse tank might have washed itself down the hill. Another one that's been out. And once again, eggs there to spread spores. And the pit props have indeed improved the fly's resistance to the wind, as strange as it appears at first glance. Meanwhile, the tree stumps produce colourful as well as boring little grey growths, while here we see mushrooms. This one's a week or 10 days old. These are coming up new. These are old ones. They're something different, you wouldn't want to eat them. These are the old ones. I think that might be old as well. These are new. I don't know what they are. These could have been eaten days ago. And there's a replacement coming up. My theory is that if there's something edible and it's in the wild, it doesn't mean you should automatically harvest it because it's there. Might be a better idea to leave it for a few years and see how much of it can propagate, and then you can have a feed without wiping it out. Think of it as the opposite of the broadacre agro cult of harvest everything-ism. Here's a couple of funnies. That one's down there growing in a hole. Whereas this one has a bowl on top of its head, holding its own water, taking their nutrients from the stump. Wouldn't want to eat that one, nor this one either. More human food. Probably 3 days past its best. That's one coming up as a spore. Probably wind blowing from those ones over there. We have had westerly wind along with 75 millimetres of rain in about 36 or 40 hours. Which is, well, we've got quite so many mushrooms and toadstools coming up out of the ground. And this, of course, is the runoff going in to the Borrolong Frog Dam stronghold. And this is the overflow. And that's why Chrissy gets to do just as much brush cutting as goes on in order to keep the vegetation down, despite how well it grows when there is some rain. And of course, the grave fear is that we're going into winter. We don't get much rain in winter. We're not going to have cold enough temperatures to freeze the soil to stop the vegetation from metabolizing and using the water. So if this is the last rain we have before the end of spring, or if we don't get any more rain till the end of summer, then everything that grows in this rain is going to be highly regrettable bushfire fuel unless somebody does something to cut it down and put it on the ground and hopefully start it rotting and turning into topsoil, which might stay a little bit moist in the dew. But this is how Los Angeles got itself cooked. Record high rains followed by 6 or 8 months of drought. However, that's not what we're here talking about. We're here to look at fungus and mushrooms. So, walking through the overflow, look you at this. Isn't it pretty? I have no idea what it's good for, if anything. But I find it spectacular to look at. And if I've paid rates on this particular square metre for 35 years, and this is the first time I've seen it do anything as spectacular as that, I reckon it's a bargain. But of course, your mileage may vary. Yes, I know. I didn't forget you, and you didn't forget me either, did you, eh? You did not forget me. No, you kept an eye on me. As soon as you saw me come over to the hut, you had to come over and get your bit of bread. Yes, I know. You're a good boy. Yes, you are. You're a very good boy. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Anyway, you're not supposed to be the star of this movie. You were the star in the previous movie, weren't you? Or a previous. You're okay. Look at that. A Swamp Wallaby restaurant with riverside views. And to close off with some mushrooms, we'll have this dead one, which was found on that stump. And over here, under the grass clippings, we have a living wattle stump eating a mushroom. As well as this little quintet feeding off the nutrients of the roots of that stump. While this one has an absolute crop of these tiny little fungi. And over there, patiently waiting, listening to the whistling of the kettle. What you going to do? Are you going to run away? Okay. Thank you for leading me up to one last and final fungosity. Growing on the long ago linseed oiled yellow box upright post of the hut veranda. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.